Hey guys, welcome back to Honey in the Rock. I'm Sophie and this is Kylie. She was our site director at camp this summer, but she was also my room neighbor, so it was perfect.
It was so sweet. It was precious, precious time with her.
Yes. And just the way she speaks of who Jesus was or is, captivated me so quickly and I felt like I was just like a sponge soaking up her words. Um, because the spirit was so evident in her life. Like genuinely how she would speak about Jesus, it was like every word she was saying was intentional. Um and it was like so clearly that Kylie was hidden behind the cross and being led by the Spirit. And so it was just like, oh, that's how I want to speak about Jesus. It's like I know these things about Jesus, but that's how I want to speak about Jesus. And so I'm excited for you to be on today and other people get to hear um about what I got to experience all summer long of how the Spirit just leads your words so clearly. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Sophie. It was so fun.
Um I literally just like I can't even describe. It's like how you speak about the Bible and then like you just like quoting Bible verses and then you just use words that are so like they're not even like crazy big words. They're just I'm like that was the perfect word for that. Like I would have never thought to use that word and that was the perfect word. So I feel like my vocabulary has expanded.
That's so sweet.
So, tell us a little bit about what your role was this summer and then we'll dive into your testimony and how you are where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. My role this summer, I got to have a privilege being the site director at Youth Camp, which is an awesome camp just um, made by Lifeway, just out of Nashville, and located everywhere. With really cool first aid camp, get to partner with the local church. Specifically, my role um, was a couple of things, mainly. One, had the opportunity to teach evangelism strategies. So our staff, not just beside the point on mission, like outside of the camp, but also inside the camp, which was one of my favorite things to do. But then also my job being a site director is there was a side of camp called Mission Fuse or MFuse, and we would quite literally get to partner with the local church that would come to camp, and we got to go out into the local community where we were at and partner with local nonprofits, apartment complexes, community centers, and be able to be the light for Jesus there. And we call these, I guess, mechanisms more so. Uh, Being able to fund youth. I say youth because we always have a reason to share. But whether that was bringing home construction yard work for someone, whether that was bringing uh, games to play with children in an apartment complex or partnering with some of the program they were already doing there. It was really sweet to be able to, one, cultivate those partnerships, have those, but also train up what we call our ministry track leaders to be able to walk that out. And so that was the main piece of my job. I had the awesome opportunity to do different other fun elements of camp of just um, having kind of like hype rallies and things like that and doing depots during the day. And so there's a lot of sweet treasures of my job, but those are just one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's so sweet. And so like camp is sort of in my hometown and it was really sweet just to see like people being sent out to like put I'm like I drive past that every day and it was just like eye-opening to me of like wait, I don't have to be over there and there like all across the world and across the seas to be loving on people and to be sharing the gospel like they're literally doing it in my hometown. And it was just so eye opening of like, okay, what does this look like for me to do now? Camp's over. So that was
Yeah,
really cool to me.
yeah,
And okay, sweet. So you can go into your testimony. You can start wherever.
yeah. So I grew up in church a little bit before my life. My parents did not grow up in church. So there was a long series of events that actually got them to that place. For me to experience that growing up, which is really significant, and there was a lot that the Lord was moving there. Um, grew up in church here on Sunday. My whole family sitting there and got to hear a lot of different things through Sunday school, through Awana, if you know what that is. It's so incredible in its
Yes.
own way. Dino chicken nuggets all the way. and
I love the
but
one.
oh, I know it's so good. But really just had a lot of got to hear a lot about the Lord growing up. When I was about between the ages of 8 and 10, I got really curious about things of the Lord because I was reading scripture, because of Awana, because of Sunday school, because of like going to service with my parents and different things like that. And so I became very curious. I think the Spirit was stirring in me at that age. And I remember one day going to my pastor and being like, hey, like, I remember him having a sermon about something like, if you were to die today and don't know Jesus, like, you would be eternally separated from him. And having a conversation with him of significance after the fact. But rather than kind of walk me through, like, what has Jesus done for us on the cross? What does that mean? How's that significant to you? It was like, okay, like, we're going to say a prayer and we're going to like kind of move on, which is not something uncommon here in the South. Is where I grew up. I grew up in Tennessee, so it's nothing crazy in Bible Belt culture, as we would call it. So said a prayer, did the thing, got baptized, and that was it, and life moved on. And it wouldn't be until I'm in late middle school, so about eighth grade, early high school, going into ninth grade, that some things would start to change for me. Some things would start to break down because in my mind, my world was fine. Um, I thought in my world that everything was perfect, fine, and well, and it was very, very interesting because I was a very joyful child growing up, just like everything, sunshine, rainbows, very vibrant. I loved to get up in the morning, loved to like stay up late at night because the excitement of the day was so grand to me. And that's how it landed on me as a kid, which is really sweet. But I started to experience depression and anxiety and a lot of internal thoughts that were just like not great, that I was like, these aren't wonderful and I don't know where they're coming from, and what do I do with this? And even in earlier parts of middle school I had thoughts of like, what would the world be without me? Like, could I even take my own life? Which is a really hard and dark part of the story. But there was a looking and searching for significance and for something that was missing in those pieces. And so when I got to about early high school, I had someone once tell me, they're like, I can see God in you because of the way that I walked. Like, I was one of the goody two shoe kids. I was like, always do things a certain way. And because of those things and the external behavior, everyone thought, this girl walks with the Lord. And really and truly, when someone said that statement to me, it was the first time I said, I don't see God in myself. And it was one of those like moments of revelation for me of like the internal, like turning internally and going, what is actually there? And so I did what I only knew to do as a good Christian, and was like, well, what do good Christians do? What do they do? Oh, they read their Bible and they pray. And so I was like, okay, well, since I say that I know the Lord, then I need to walk that out. And so I started spending significant time in prayer and in the Word. Um, at that age, and just like I said, started taking that seriously. Well, what does the Word of God do? It convicts us. It's able to discern between the bone and the marrow, able to divide. It's profitable for teaching, correction, and reproof. It's living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword. So what was the Word going to do? It was going to convict me, and it was going to kind of teach me a little about myself. And what it did was started teaching me, Keilee, you're a sinner. Like, you are more sinful than you ever thought you would be. Like, externally, this is the face. Everyone thinks that you've got it all together and everything as well. But at the end of the day, you're broken. And for the first
Right.
time, I really had to face that reality. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not who I thought I was.
Right.
And that was interesting to digest at that age. And I wasn't sure quite what to do with it because I didn't really have a true understanding of gospel. Like I said, early on in life, when I was curious about it and when the Lord was prompting me, I think, about who are you? What is salvation? What is Jesus?
Right.
Instead of actually having a full understanding of the gospel, I said a prayer and we moved on. And so I
Right.
wrestled in a really dark place for months of how can I reconcile my sin? Because at the end of the day, the more I kept reading the word and understanding the word, I realized how condemning it was.
Right.
And I was like, what do I do with this? And so, what was really sweet, and I'd been praying through this even as I was struggling, I was just crying out to the Lord. I don't know what to do. Help me. I don't know how to reach you. Help me. And one day I read Ephesians 2:8-9, which says, for it is by grace through faith that you've been saved, not of your own works. It's a gift from God, so no one can boast.
Right.
And I was like, what?
Oh.
What is
Mhm.
this? And it really
Yeah.
radically changed my life. It really radically changed my life. I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, I was like, there's no way. It sounds too good. I was like, for it is by grace through faith. So quite literally not something I deserve. Through trusting him that we're
Right.
saved. I was like, there's no way that's true. That's so good. And I was like,
Right.
I don't believe this. I really don't. And so for a month I sat with the word and I read the Bible through a gospel lens for the first time in my life. And
Mm.
everything was just illuminated. Everything just
Gosh.
came to life. Like God's character, he was no longer this, like, yes, he was a just God in the sky, like he was righteous, he was good, those things that I knew about him. But he also, for the first time to me, was gracious and merciful and kind. And his loving kindness is toward us, his favor
Mm.
is towards us. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so
Right.
about a month later in my bedroom, when I was about 15 years old, 16 years old, I trusted Christ. And I wrote it on a sticky note
Mm.
and I stuck it in my Bible and it stayed there. And so when I was in the latter part of high school, I started reading the Word because I wanted to know Him more and trust Him more, and um, just walk with Him, which was so, so sweet. And so that started really my journey with the Lord in walking with Him. And it was interesting to figure out, I was like, I knew God was good. I knew all of these things, but I mean, my depression, my anxiety did not just go away just because I knew Jesus instantly, which was
Right.
something that I was like, I was surprised by and learning and was having to navigate with Him. I was like, okay, what do I do? And so started, like I said, walking with him and inviting him into those hard spaces. I think that was the hardest thing for me, was learning that like the Lord wants to sit with me, not just because he's kind to redeem us and then also redeem us to good works, but he also just wants to sit with us and be our loving father.
Right.
And so I started inviting him into those spaces. I went to college, got connected to a really awesome college ministry, where I went to at Murray State, and got connected to healthy churches that really focus on like missions and discipleship. And for the first time, I was like, this is what the body of believers is supposed to look like.
Yep.
Which was really impactful and forever changed really my trajectory of how I viewed the church and how I viewed the body. Which was really sweet because around that time too would also be the time the Lord would start prompting my heart and going, hey, I know that you have plans for your life, but I need you to surrender those, because I thought I knew where I wanted to live, what job I wanted to do, and who I wanted to marry. And none of those things were true at all. And yeah, the type A in me was screaming. The type A person in me was screaming the entire time, was like, no way. Like, what about this? I always said I wanted to do this because I always said I wanted to be a teacher since the time I was little. And the Lord was like, what if I just have something that's better? And so for 3 years while in college, I really, while like serving with our college ministry, learning more about Him, walking with believers, I started really wrestling with the Lord and going, okay, what do you have for me?
Mm.
And it was really hard. I can't say it was easy. I can't say that I was like, oh, the Lord just said for me to do this and He, I listened. It was like, nope, let me run.
Right.
Because that's the thing to do.
Yeah.
But in my own pride and my own thoughts, His ways are higher than our ways, and I think it's hard to reconcile sometimes. Um,
but he was inviting me into the sweet process with him of going, trust me, and I love you, take my hand.
Yeah.
A very gracious way. And so that's really when he kind of started pivoting my heart through camp ministry and through college ministry of, hey, you might do full-time ministry, which was really, really sweet. And now that I'm like here in this space, I couldn't imagine doing anything differently because it fits and it just makes sense. And I can't imagine doing anything differently. And it's been a journey. It's been such a sweet journey of this is obviously I just got done with camp with you and getting to be in that space. That was my fifth summer of camp, which is really a gift. And then the previous season of my life was spent at this thing called the Kanakuk Institute, which is a 9-month biblical studies program in Branson, Missouri. And I was like, okay, God, like if I'm going to run this race with you, I need to go get equipped to do so. And how do I do that? And knew about that and went and just sat for a year and studied the word and with other people. And so it's been an interesting journey of pivoting with him. It's been so sweet because it's been so grace led. It's always been the hand of just follow my voice, just take my hand. And even with the journey with anxiety and depression, it's been really, really sweet to be in now what has been for I guess 10 years now of walking in that space. It doesn't mean that I don't have days that I don't have anxiety. It doesn't mean that there aren't seasons, especially like in the winter, when things like the sun doesn't come out as much. There's not days that I don't struggle with depression. I don't. That's not true. Um, but what the Lord has invited me to, which is really sweet, is one, um, inviting other people to the table in that, going, hey, let me bring you in because the Lord has given you as a gift to me as the body, and you can do the same. You can pull me in when you're having a moment because we're not going to give the enemy a seat at the table. We're not going to allow that. But I'm going to bring you in and I'm going to say, hey, will you sit with me? Will you pray with me? And then I can also go to the Father and say, hey, this is where I am today. But it's been so sweet. Sanctification between becoming a believer and now has been so sweet and so hard at the same time.
Yeah.
And I wish early on I knew like when you become a believer, you know, like I said, not all your problems go away. You're not perfectly redeemed. That's glorification. That's when we see Him face to face. But it is so sweet the gracious process He invites us to with the Spirit, our helper, that He brings things to remembrance to
Right.
us, but He's also just drawing us near to Himself. Just like He draws us near, the Father draws us near for salvation, He's always drawing us to Himself and saying, you know, how can we become more of the restored, you know, Imago Dei, being in His image? Since we are made in His image, how do we act and walk more like Him? And so, yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good piece of my testimony. That's kind of where we are now. But I can tell you that today I'm more in love with the Father than I was yesterday and the day before that. And I can't imagine my life looking any differently than it does today because he is everything.
Yeah. Gosh, that is so good. And it's just like so sweet um of the Lord to like invite us into that. It's just like what I keep saying. It's like he invites us into all of these different things in this like process of looking more like the Son. He's inviting us in, and sometimes that looks hard, and sometimes it might be seasons where it's not as hard. But it's like what a gift and something that I want to treasure because he doesn't have to do that. And I feel like something that really stood out this summer, and I just reminded of as you tell your testimony of like, why are you allowing me to see this? Because I don't deserve that. And it's just like, that is so kind of you. Like, thank you for being kind to me in that way and allowing me to see this or allowing me to partner with you in this. Um, I read a book at college. It was called Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools with a group of people. And at the beginning, I was like, what is this? Like, not the book, but like in general, like, what is prayer like? What does my prayer actually do? Like, if the Lord is sovereign, then does my prayer actually do anything? And
Yeah.
just, like, wrestling with this, and at the time, my aunt was really sick, and I was like, "Does it change anything if I pray for my aunt's salvation or not?" Like, all of these things, wrestling with it, and one day, it was just like he was just like, "I'm inviting you into what I'm doing, and just let me invite you in. Stop trying to, like, figure every little detail out. Stop trying to" like, I needed to stop trying to know everything and instead just rest in the fact that he was allowing me to see what he was doing. He was like, "Sure, I'm gonna do what I'm doing, but, like, I want you to be involved. Just, like, come on in." Um, and that just as you were speaking, that was just, like, reminding me of those truths of being like he's just like, "Hey, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna need to do, but I'm inviting you in to do this, and so trust me, grab my hand." Um, and our stories are very similar in a lot of ways. Even just the part of, like, the inner thoughts, struggling with these inner thoughts and being, like, literally wrestling with them, but then being so good at pretending that people see Jesus in you. And that really is kind of Jesus to let people see that, but, it was when I was in high school too, and I was good at doing all the right things, and I could do all the right things to make it look like I was doing great. I could speak the right way to adults, I could speak the right way to the kids, I could speak the right way to my peers, I knew the right thing to say when somebody was struggling. Like, I was, like, checking these boxes, um but then in the dark corners of my room, I was broken and lost, and my walls would come down once I walk into my house,
Yeah.
and I was angry and hurt and scared. Um, and it was just this, like, weird wrestle of, like, "Who am I? Am I always pretending?" And that really is where I met the Lord. And so it was sweet in that you're sort of similar. And I still find myself having to be careful and not pretending because
Yeah.
it's something that still will come up and I'm, like, in relationships, and it ruins things because when my walls come down, I'm like, "Oh, I was pretending I'm sorry." And so just trying to be vulnerable with the Lord and how you said that, like, that really is what it is. It's finally being vulnerable with Jesus, finally inviting him into that and being like, "This is where I am, I need your help."
Yeah. No,
And
that's so true.
yeah,
That's so good. I
yeah.
think I think too something I found along the way, and this is a part of the journey too, it's just and I think that you'll be able to resonate with this really well. It's just like even after becoming a believer, I think, at least for me, I dealt with this like almost this like pseudo personality to some degree that was like everyone was like, "Oh, you're like this really awesome believer, like you know Jesus really well, like because you're growing in him and all these things." And wanted to really like put me in leadership positions and different things like that. But at the same time, there was no accountability in my life.
Mm,
There was not a lot of vulnerability. And
mhm.
it was like all of these things could easily creep in. All of this, like the sin could creep in my life. There's a lot of things that could have come back in a back door. Those dark spaces, that really kind of illuminated on the front end of like, I need a savior, were still there. And it's
Right.
like, what do I do? And it was honestly later in the journey, it was probably later towards college for the first time I was like, I need I understand like for the first time in my life, this is what the body of believers should look like.
Right.
But I don't realize how much I need the body of believers in my life to go, I need I need you to sit with me because no matter at the end of the day, like what kind of um no matter how great of a Christian I could be or whatever that looks like or whatever even the thought or image is, there's still the tendency to put on that front. There's still the tendency of like, I've got it all together, but behind me, there's skeletons in my closet. And once again, the Lord is like very gracious. It's like, I've given you the body, I've given you myself.
Right.
Come.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you resonate with that at any point,
Yes.
but
Mm.
that's something even to this day that it's like a continually like, okay, if I'm going to be humble before the cross and I'm going to continue to walk out in obedience what he has for me, that means I've got to constantly like, hey, someone like get in my car, you're going to sit in the passenger seat with me, let's load up the back. I want to sit with people and I hope that they do the same and let's go on this journey together.
Yep, exactly, no, and that is, like, so relatable to me, and I'm sure so many other people, like, literally, it's like, "Oh, that's what it is," and it's like and then when it hit me, I was like, "Oh, this is almost pride," or "It is
Yeah.
pride," of trying
Yeah.
to pretend like I have it all together. I'm like, "Well, why am I doing that?" And that's just where 2 Corinthians 12:9, is it 12:9 or 9:12? I don't know. I think it's 12:9. Just like his grace is sufficient for me and his power is
Yeah.
made known in my weakness. And that was the verse that the Lord just like kept putting in my life this spring. And I was like, He's preparing me for summer. I know this is something I need to cling to this summer. And it was. It was just a verse that I just like cling to because in my weakness, his power is made known. Like it's I need to boast about my weakness because that's the
Yeah.
whole point. And, um, it's just like, how much greater is he? Um, and it's been really sweet and really freeing to be able to be humble, enough, or the Lord give me enough humility to be like, I am so broken and I am so lost and I don't have it all together, but this is who the Spirit is inside of me. And it's a so much sweeter place to be than trying to like muster up all the courage and pretend and be everything I need to be.
Oh, amen.
And so that's just been freeing. So, and I like could relate to that part of your story. And then again, you're like, I wanted to be a teacher my whole life. And the Lord was like, hey, look at this. Literally my entire life. I was like, I'm going to be a kindergarten teacher. I'm going to be a kindergarten teacher. I was in the classroom already, like preparing for it. That's what my mom did. That's what my family, like, it was like, this is what I'm going to do. I loved it. I was like, the Lord had gifted me in that way. And I was like, oh, perfect. This is going to be easy. I have my summers off. And then, as I just like continue to wrestle with the Lord, He was like, "But I have something different." Like, yes, 100% the classroom is a mission field that I'm calling people to, but that's not your mission field that I'm calling you to. I'm calling you to something different. And I was just like, "No, you don't get it." Like, I already have it planned out. Like, I'm gonna go to this school. I'm gonna get my 5 years. I'm
Yeah.
gonna marry a great guy. He's probably gonna be a banker, like rich. Like, it's no, like it's gonna be great. Um, and just the Lord was like, yeah, actually, like, no. Um, and now I'm just in this process of like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know who I'm gonna marry. I don't know where I'm gonna live. Um, but it's the sweetest place to be because I have so much peace on my Savior who's leading me. And it's like He's my shepherd and I'm just this little lost sheep and He is guiding me. Um, and He's gonna bring me to where I need to be in ministry, and it's like, if He called me here, He's not gonna leave me in it, and if He began a good work in me, who am I to say that He's not gonna complete that good work? Um, not because of me, but because He wants to use these broken people, and so when you're saying that, I was like, "Yeah, literally, like, that's the season that I've been walking in for the past few years of just, like, what I thought life was gonna look like, and now being like, I don't know what life is gonna look like, but I do know who's planning it out, and so it's been sweet. Um, there was something else that you made me think of. Oh, just like the depression, anxiety doesn't always go away,
Yeah.
right? And like, sure, there are stories where the Lord completely strips that away from somebody's life. And there's also stories where it's something we have to wrestle with. And I think that was something I was almost mad at God about because I was
Yeah.
like, I'm trying to be obedient. I'm trying to stay in your word. Why do I still feel this way? Like,
Yeah.
why? And it was just a reminder of like, faith is not a feeling, but also like, it's what I needed to stay in dependence on the Lord. Um,
Yes.
and it's a reminder of my brokenness, and it's a reminder of the humility that I need, and it's a reminder of where I need to be sitting, which is at the foot of the cross, every day. And I think that if it wasn't something I would struggle with, I would get in a really a place of just like drifting on the highway, just doing the right things and checking the boxes. And so I've learned just like instead of being frustrated at God for not taking me out of what I thought I didn't want to be in anymore, um, and I listened to this podcast somewhere, and it was like, "What has depression and anxiety taught you?" And I just had to like switch my perspective on it and start like worshiping in the midst of it instead of being like, oh, I wish this was just taken away or just removed. And then being like, okay, well, God doesn't just always just remove things because I want it to be removed. He sees the whole picture. And so I started having to like lean in and being like, what does the Lord teach me in this? How do I see him clearly? Um, and then now it's been sweet of like, how can I love people better because of it? And, like, selfishly, I'm like, I wish that didn't have to be the case. Um, but then when I put my, like, goggles back on to being like, "Wait, let me see how the Lord can use this," it's been really sweet to be like, "Okay." I might struggle with this and this, but that's not who I am. That's not my identity, but it is something that I can use to see how I can love the Lord better. And I just had to like switch it completely, or I'll throw myself a pity party.
Um, it even allows you to enter into a space that like resembles the Father just because of compassion, right? Like Jesus came to earth, fully God, fully man, and he
Right.
experienced the things that we experience. And I think we do have a compassionate God. We see his attributes, even, I mean, some people only attribute compassion and mercy and grace to the Father in the New Testament, but we see in Exodus 34 talking about the love and kindness and compassion of our Father. And
Mm,
so, quite literally, even him coming to dwell with us, to be here on earth. I mean,
right.
he wept, he experienced
Right.
so much pain. I
Right.
mean, I'm sure that Jesus's stomach grumbled, you know, like even as simple as something like that. I'm sure he experienced loneliness. I'm sure that, you know, like every phenomenon you think he experienced, obviously he walked out in perfection and holiness, what the Lord had asked him to, and he was obedient to the Father. But in the same way, like we get to interact in the space of what is our Achilles heel, the thing that is our weakness that he gets to be strong in. Sometimes he allows us that space so that we can be a representation. We can be able to be his ambassadors, right? Like what it's
Right.
talked about in Corinthians of us being ambassadors of Christ. Just like we get to walk out and be compassionate towards people. I see
Yeah.
you.
Right.
You're not
Right.
alone.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
really
That's so good. Well, thanks for sharing your story. It's just sweet to see how the Lord um uses everything again for the good of the kingdom, which is our goal as believers. And so I think that's just really sweet, and just how the Lord has like continued to equip you for what you need um for himself, which is really sweet. Um and so thanks for sharing.
of course. Thanks for asking and having me.
Yes, it's so fun. It's like my favorite thing in the world. And then it's to like do ministry with y'all and hear bits and pieces of stories, and then it's like, oh, this is why we do what we do, and this is why we serve how we serve, um, because who the Lord is, and so that's just really sweet.
He is so kind to us.
So, I love you,
I love
and
you too.
thanks for coming on,
Of course. Thank you for having
and thanks for listening. Yes, you can come back anytime.
me. Okay. I'd love to come back.
Okay, perfect. And thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.